Welcome into CBS Sports HQ Spotlight. It's a Valentine's Day edition, if you couldn't tell.
If you couldn't guess.
If you couldn't guess, Mike Cunio and Haley Sutton in with you in studio. Some relationships thrive this time of year. Some come to an end, like Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. So make sure you're taking care of those significant others out there, especially today.
I don't even, what would you get Aaron Rodgers for a Valentine's Day gift? There's probably a few things that you and I can't talk about on the show.
Let's just say a trip to South America might suit him.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll see. Obviously, the split there with Aaron Rodgers and intimate when it comes to him no longer being the quarterback out in New Jersey. Just one of several potential free agents, if you will. We're calling him potential because it hasn't really come to be just yet. But here is Pete Prisco's top free agents. He just released his top 100 list earlier this week, and obviously you see Sam Darnold there up at the top. The headliner was that he was pretty good this season until he wasn't, so obviously question marks there about what kind of quarterback he's going to be. Offensive linemen as well are the hot commodity. Some teams could really use some healthy guys there. Of course, not mentioned on this list is Aaron Rodgers. He had a season that probably he doesn't want to remember on this Valentine's Day, so we hope he finds his Valentine's Day soon. But in the meantime, we're going to play a little matchmaker with our Emory Hunt. And Emory thought he was going to be the best dressed on the show today. And I'm not going to lie, Emory, you look good. I'm liking my outfit just a little bit better. What do you think?
It was a shock surprise. I didn't see it till I popped on. I was like, okay, you are clearly outdoing me today.
Listen, one thing about me, I'm going to lean into a theme, but I want to give you your flowers too. You came dressed to impress, which is important. We're playing matchmaker here. A lot of free agents are looking for a new home. Maybe they want to stick around. Either way, you're going to be our master of ceremonies here. So let's get things started with Aaron Rodgers. It's the breakup that we all talk about, right? I kind of listed these in what type of guy you are when you date, right? So Aaron Rodgers is the guy who's he's fine. He is who he is, but he's not the guy you want in your girls' group chat, in your circle. So where is Aaron Rodgers going to find maybe his person? It's obviously not going to be in New York.
Right, you got to be with someone that probably is desperate, but also kind of needs someone to be there, a warm body. How about the Cleveland Browns? I feel like Cleveland is the best spot for Aaron Rodgers and where he needs to be because, one, he fits Kevin Stefanski's offense beautifully, in my opinion, and there's a lot of pieces already in place, so he doesn't have to bring his homeboys with him like he tends to do wherever he goes, but he has some pieces in place, have a very good defense, and maybe bringing in Aaron Rodgers can entice a guy like Myles Garrett to rescind his trade offers.
I love how you're picking up what I'm putting down, Emory. Let's keep this conversation going with Sam Darnold. He's like that one ex that tells you he's going to clean it up, and then he doesn't, so you give him the ultimatum, and so then on his final chance, he does everything that you want him to until he gets too comfortable, Emory, and then he turns into who he used to be, and that's what we saw out of Sam Darnold at the end of the season with the Vikings. So what do you think? Is he going to win one more opportunity out in Minnesota, or does he have to go look for a new girl elsewhere?
It's almost like he's a guy that thinks he wants a new relationship, goes out to a bar with his friends and realizes, man, I have exactly what I need already at home. Everything I could want right there with the Minnesota Vikings. And that's why I believe he should stay, because he's had his best season of his career in Minnesota. He knows the personnel. He has great personnel around him. And there's no rush from Minnesota's standpoint to put J.J. McCarthy out there. So you have a guy in Sam Darnold that knows the system, has the camaraderie and the cohesiveness with the unit. Why not run it back one more time and make this thing stick?
I'm sure the other guy, J.J. McCarthy, might have something to say about that, but we don't have time to get into messes here. Let's talk about T. Higgins. Mike alluded to it earlier. Not all Valentine's Day end in happy endings at home. Of course, Joe Burrow made it very clear he knows who his group is, and he wants T. Higgins to be a part of that out in Cincy. But listen, Emory, the money's tight right now. Sometimes you can't spoil all of the girls or guys you have in your rotation when you got to pay Jamar Chase, too. Are we seeing maybe a split out in Cincinnati when it comes to T. Higgins?
You would hate to see the split, but you kind of understand it. But hey, sometimes a breakup is good for both parties involved, and T. Higgins goes on and finds greater and greener pastures in Washington, our nation's capital, with the Commanders. Because think about this, Washington was heavily in play for receiver Brandon Ayuk last offseason when they drafted Jaden Daniels. Now they have a chance, another swing it back with all this cap money to go out and get another superstar wide receiver in T. Higgins. I think that makes the perfect fit. But also with Cincinnati, we've seen this time and time again, going back to when they had Carl Pickens and Darnay Scott. They will always be able to find, however they do it, They will always be able to find excellent wide receivers. So losing T. Higgins won't be that big of a deal for Cincinnati.
I don't know. Joe Burrow, he's got him close to his heart in there, so we'll have to see how he's feeling post-Valentine's Day when it all is said and done. Let's talk about Josh Sweat, who comes in at number 3 on Pete Prisco's list of top free agents. I had a hard time kind of categorizing Josh Sweat, but I kind of feel like he's the guy who does everything right, and yet the girls don't want him. He's the nice guy, Emory. He does everything you need him to do, and yet it's still not good enough. So do you think Josh Sweat is good enough to stick around on this Eagles squad?
Absolutely. Nice guys finish first. And in this situation, he stays right at home because the Philadelphia Eagles realize, hey, we have a good thing going. Shout out to Michael Jackson's song right there. We have a good thing going with Josh Sweat, and we may get a potential retirement with Brandon Graham. Who knows? But we saw them draft Nolan Smith, and we've seen Josh Sweat, his performance in the Super Bowl. All he did was just make the price go up for Philly to retain his services, keep him in the city of brotherly love, run it back with Nolan Smith, and now you have a dynamic duo for another 5+ years up front.
I'm sure he's not thinking about Valentine's Day with that wild parade going on right now up in Philly. He's got other things on his mind. On the back half of Pete Prisco's free agency rankings, you'll find that sticky situation up in Pittsburgh, the love triangle, if you will. On one hand, you got Justin Fields out here like Justin Bieber. He just wants someone to love him, Emory, my goodness. And then on the other side, you got Russell Wilson, Mr. Steal Your Girl, coming in mid-season and taking over the reins here. Only one of them can be the QB. Is either of them going to stay in Pittsburgh?
Yes. Steelers know who gives them that good love. That's Justin Fields right there, right? And he's the one that everybody loves on the team. He does a great job in doing all of the things that Russell Wilson does. And I think what really helped his case was how he handled last season, where he was 4-2 and then took a step back because Russell Wilson was the starter going into the training camp. So he didn't lose a job, but he kept the seat warm. And the teammates look at how he responded, was able to go in certain situations when the situation called for it, handle that with class, and now they look at a younger, more explosive, dynamic, cheaper, more upside version of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. I think that's the guy that Pittsburgh will say, hey, let's lock this thing down, and they'll put a ring on it.
What about Russell Wilson, though, Emory? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I got the ick when that video came out of him saying that he was Mr. Unlimited, but it's low-key become one of my favorites. So what about Russ? Where is he going to end up?
Hey, sometimes people like the old veterans, like there's a market for that too. How about going to LA, working with Sean McVay, who's gotten the most out of a lot of these guys? Matthew Stafford, he rehabilitated Carson Wentz, rehabilitated Baker Mayfield. So why not go ahead and rehabilitate a guy in Russell Wilson? He did it with Jared Goff, coming off what Goff was doing with Jeff Fisher. So Russell Wilson, a veteran, doesn't tie them too long. They can always go and get their quarterback of the future, but you got a guy in Russell Wilson that can give you baseline play, help keep your offense on pace instead of the hand with whatever's thrown out there on the field around him.
Man, I just hope that Russell Wilson has flowers as big as the one that you got on your shirt there to woo whoever he's going to end up doing. All right, Emory Hunt joining us playing matchmaker today with some of the top free agents in the NFL. Thanks, Emory.